Today, the IRS updating how your income tax will be calculated to adjust for inflation. What are the changes and how will they affect you? And Disney shares down 7% today after telling investors its subscriber growth is slowing, but its theme parks are seeing more business. And Elon Musk selling billions worth of Tesla stock, first time in 5 years. The Tesla share price barely budged. That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. I'm Paul Graney. Today, Uncle Sam gets a chance to catch his breath as October's budget deficit comes in much lower than last year, down 42% to a still eye-watering $165 billion for the month. The difference is partly due to lower spending on unemployment benefits and other stimulus measures. Government spending in October fell 14% from a year earlier, and the economic recovery and solid business profits have also led to a rebound in tax revenues. They're up 19%. But questions remain about the deficit going forward. President Biden's climate and social agenda could add several trillion in spending over the next decade. And as inflation causes the price of goods and services to rise, wages tend to follow. That would mean many more Americans find themselves paying more taxes, even a higher tax rate if they end up in a higher tax bracket. So now the IRS is raising the brackets for the 2022 tax year for the most part by about 3% higher than 2021. Take a single filer as an example. The lowest bracket got moved from $9,950 to $10,275. So if your taxable income in 2021 is $10,000, you'll be taxed 12%, but for the same income in 2022, you'll just be taxed 10%. Take a more extreme example. If your taxable income is the same $88,000 both years, in 2021 you'll be taxed 32%, but in 2022 your tax rate will be 24%. Pretty big cut. IRS adjusts the tax brackets every year, but this is the largest increase in 4 years. Still not rising as fast as inflation. The CPI hit a 30-year high last month of 6.2%. So joining us is Congressman Warren Davidson of Ohio. Congressman, great to see you. I think first of all, it's Veterans Day. Thank you for your service.
Definitely an honor, and thanks for allowing me to join you today.
Of course, anytime. Mr. Davidson's a member of the House Financial Services Committee, also a founder of the Sound Money Caucus. And Congressman, I'm curious at your discussions or your meetings with the Sound Money Caucus and your colleagues. What are you guys thinking about the inflation problems, and have you come up with any solutions or potential solutions?
Well, yeah, so we started the Sound Money Caucus last summer because, look, originally, you go back, historically, the spending was constrained by taxes. So if you could raise the taxes, you could spend the money. If you go back when George H.W. Bush was president, he broke his own pledge, no new taxes, because he felt obligated to pay for the spending. By 08-09, even the idea of being constrained by the amount of money you could borrow was out, and they were doing quantitative easing. So if you look at the Federal Reserve's balance sheet since then, it's grown over $8 trillion. So they're the lender of last resort. The market isn't providing this. And when you create that much cash into the economy, of course it shows up. At first people are happy. The market prices are going up, their 401ks and IRAs and retirement's going up. But then you start seeing it hit retail prices. And that's what we're seeing today. And people have known all along, this is not going to be transitory.
I think on the oil and gas, recently I feel the Democrats have been coming down pretty hard on it. I even saw a proposal or an idea, I believe it was signed by Elizabeth Warren and some other Democrats, to ban oil exports, to draw from the strategic oil reserves and even ban exports of oil. And I felt, what a way, how could you do that to American oil companies? They'd be destroyed if they weren't allowed to export oil. We also have a nominee that Biden is putting forward for, I believe, a currency-related position, a top bank regulatory position, if I'm not mistaken, who said in an interview recently that bankrupting the companies would be a good thing for climate change. And I understand the Democrats and Republicans as well. Some of them have climate change concerns. But do you feel there's also a political aspect to coming down so hard on oil and gas?
Yeah, absolutely, and particularly hard on American oil and gas. So what's going to happen when America can't export? The Russians will be happy to uptake the market, as will the Saudis. So it would just particularly be bad for American companies, which is the goal. I mean, frankly, this Amarova character that Biden has nominated for the Office of Controller of Currency, not only does she have horrendous views on energy, she's also talked about literally closing bank accounts and moving the balances to the Federal Reserve, perhaps in advance of a central bank digital currency. This would be, horrific for our economy, be horrific for America. But the same sort of bad ideas for energy, when you look at what they're talking about for fossil fuel companies, they've already done to coal companies, right? So Barack Obama said, well, we won't make it illegal for coal companies in America. We'll just make it so you'll go bankrupt. And that's exactly the agenda. You saw the energy secretary essentially laugh when Bloomberg asked her, what's your plan to lower gas prices? There is no plan to lower them, only to raise them.
Is it a Republican Democrat thing, or is it something else?
I think these views lie outside of the historic Democratic Party. So, these are folks that literally want to collapse markets in the United States of America. I mean, normally Democrats don't want to do that. Amarova was educated in the Soviet Union with a PhD from the University of Moscow. She wrote her thesis on why the Soviet banking system was superior to America's. I mean, not all Democrats hold these ideas. Thankfully, not even all the Democrats in Congress hold these ideas. The trouble is when Democrats go to vote and they vote for these policies, the people that are making the decisions, particularly in the Biden administration, have these, horrible far left ideas. And it really is Bernie Sanders' agenda, even though Joe Biden ran on a much more moderate position. The agenda before us today is essentially Bernie's.
I think this point about bringing all the accounts into the Federal Reserve, I was listening to economist Richard Werner from in Europe. He basically said that the only other example of having one bank in the entire country, which could in effect happen if we have a central bank digital currency, you have your account with the central bank, as you mentioned, was in fact the Soviet Union, is the only other example he could hear, and we all know how that ended economically for them.
Yeah, it didn't work well for the Soviet Union. China is talking about trying something along those lines in the 2022 Olympics. So with the central bank digital currency, and look, this is a creepy surveillance tool. I mean, they're trying to link it with a social credit system that gives credit to people not based on their ability to repay, but on whether or not they've been a good citizen. I mean, there are people within the Democratic Party today, again, not all, but the people in the far, far left of the party that look to the Communist Chinese Party with envy. They want the power and control and influence to use the payment system as a means of control. They want the banking system to be a means of control. They want to defund fossil fuels. They want to favor certain industries, disfavor others, and they want to favor certain individuals and disfavor others. All that's interlaced with these policy positions, whether you're talking about the American Rescue Plan, the infrastructure bill, or Build Back Better, all part of this Bernie Sanders agenda. And it is hostile to the American way of life and free enterprise. We're confronting a potentially fatal overdose of government. We need more freedom and less government, and we need to embrace sound money.
Yeah, well, I think almost day by day, at least week by week, we're moving further and further away from sound money. So it's incredibly worrying. Congressman Warren Davidson, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
In today's market news, the S&P 500 ended essentially flat, with chip makers helping push the Nasdaq into positive territory. But the Dow fell 159 points, about 0.4%. S&P 500 gained 3 points, and the Nasdaq added 82 points, about 0.5% today. And Tesla shares were pretty much unchanged today, even after company CEO Elon Musk sold about $5 billion worth of Tesla stock this week. The first time Musk has sold a block of Tesla shares since 2016. The sell-off came after he did a Twitter poll last weekend on whether he should sell 10% of his Tesla stock. 60% of his followers said yes. Then on Monday, Musk exercised more than 2 million stock options, then sold 1 million shares. He then sold another 3.6 million shares on Tuesday and Wednesday, according to additional filings. A regulatory filing says Musk will use the profit from his week's sales to pay taxes on stock options. While Disney didn't have the happiest quarter on Earth, it did announce the Disney Metaverse. We have very few details, but it's something to look forward to. NTD's Grace Coulter has more.
The Walt Disney Company has missed estimates across the board. In its earnings release, the company reported earnings per share of 37 cents, 27% lower than estimates of 51 cents. They also had revenue of $18.53 billion, around 1% lower than estimates of $18.79 billion. CEO Bob Chapek started off the earnings call reiterating Disney's strategic priorities.
First and foremost, telling the world's most original and enduring stories. Second, maximizing the synergy of our unique ecosystem to deepen consumers' connection to our characters and our stories. And lastly, using the power of our far-reaching platforms and new technologies to give consumers the best entertainment experience possible.
Disney Plus subscriber numbers were disappointing. They added 2.1 million, while analysts thought they would add 78% more, 9.4 million. Chapek says Disney will double the number of markets Disney Plus is in by fiscal year 2023, while putting out fresh content.
In total, we are nearly doubling the amount of original content from our marquee brands, Disney, Marvel, Pixar, Star Wars, and National Geographic, coming to Disney Plus in FY22, with the majority of our highly anticipated titles arriving July through September.
And Disney parks are seeing more business. All theme parks and cruise ships were open during the quarter. Disney said they spent $1 billion just to conform to the government virus regulations. Chapek also announced a big new Disney project. He said, "Our efforts to date are merely a prologue to a time when we'll be able to connect the physical and digital worlds even more closely, allowing for storytelling without boundaries in our own Disney metaverse."
And Kazakhstan, which borders Russia in the north and China in the east, is officially the second biggest crypto mining country in the world, but is putting a strain on the nation's electric grid. NTD's Fake Quarter has the details.
As the world's second biggest Bitcoin mining location, Kazakhstan is having trouble meeting the energy needs of this blooming industry.
Since the beginning of October, we've been facing restrictions. There are periods when the electricity is completely turned off. There are days when we are provided with only 20% of our total capacity to meet our primary needs.
Aging coal plants are offering power to local mining farms in Kazakhstan, but authorities think it's hindering the development of the green economy. Meanwhile, unregistered gray miners might be consuming twice as much power as the white, officially registered ones. The Kazakh government plans to chase down these so-called illegal players first and roll out policies to deal with it.
The main thing to do is to regulate and legalize the mining activity in Kazakhstan. In 2022, an additional tax for mining activity will be introduced, as well as additional tariffs.
Some gray miners say they are considering going white, but are unsure how heavily they may be taxed. Some also propose making miners pay more for energy. The root of the problem lies in Kazakhstan's state-regulated and artificially low electricity prices. The government may not want to increase them while struggling to contain inflation. Fake Quarter, NTD News.
And a former engineer for chipmaker Broadcom has been charged with stealing technology for a Chinese firm. Peter Ki Song Kim is a resident of California and was a product design engineer at Broadcom. The indictment says before Kim left Broadcom in 2020, he allegedly stole trade secrets about a family of chips used in data centers. 10 days later, he started working at a Chinese startup focused on chip design. The new company gave him a laptop, and the charges say he repeatedly used the tech he stole on the new laptop and other devices. If convicted, he faces up to 10 years for each count. So joining us is Josh Malone, Policy Director at U.S. Inventor, and someone who's been closely watching China's attempts to steal, for want of a better word, U.S. intellectual property and innovations. Josh, pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
As a policy director, I think a high-level question to begin with, how do you rate the U.S.'s policy, you could say, reactions or policy with regards to Chinese theft in this space over the past few years, let's say?
Yeah, it's too reactionary. In the past, the U.S. excelled by having a rapid rate of innovation so that older technologies weren't as critical. And so now we're trying to chase down these technologies after they've already escaped. And so it's been, I'd rate it too reactionary and not proactive enough.
I think we've all heard about, we have this most recent story with Broadcom, people stealing technology secrets. We've heard about Chinese actors in universities stealing research and different types of secrets. You're really focused on a specific way the Chinese are getting their hands on technology which is actually legal. It's through a patents appeals board, if I'm not mistaken. Can you give some insight into why you're so concerned in this particular area?
The large corporations and the politicians came out in 2011 and they said, let's make it harder for startups and inventors and small businesses to compete with these technology companies. And so they created a patent trial and appeal board. And whereas in the past, when an entrepreneur or small business had a dispute and our technology was stolen, we would go to a regular Article III court. We would have a trial by jury. The penalties were very stiff, and people didn't steal as much technology. But under this new bill in 2011, for 10 years now, there's a division inside the patent office and administrative judges who, if you want to use that technology, you just go to the patent office and you pay a fee and you allege that they made a mistake. And in 5 out of 6 cases, the patent office will take back the patent, and that allows the corporation, whether it's domestic or international, to proceed with using the technology that we created because our patent is stripped away and we can't stop them anymore in a court.
Have you met any investor or inventors who have faced this fate, and how did they feel?
Yeah, well, I went through it myself. It was brutal, it was crushing, and it was way more difficult than it should be. There's an inventor who's a member of our group, several examples. One is he invented some technology that enabled the selfie stick. And again, this is a global situation. So Microsoft teamed up with Xiaomi, their strategic global partner, and they challenged his patent at the patent office after it was issued. And the patent office has now taken back his patent so that Xiaomi can continue to sell his technology without compensating him for it.
Microsoft helped them do this?
Yeah, that's the key I think that's been missing, is that our big tech companies have partnered with China, and they created this environment that destroys the incentive for small businesses to compete. So yeah, Microsoft, and they filed in their pleadings that they're filing on behalf of their global strategic partner, Xiaomi, and the patent office, the U.S. patent office, agreed with Microsoft and Xiaomi and took back the patent that they had granted to the U.S. citizen who was a startup competitor with these big companies.
And this was the guy who invented the selfie stick.
Yeah, he has a key enabling technology, again, it was 15 years ago for the selfie stick. Similarly, the same inventor prior to that was challenged by DJI, the spy drone manufacturer. They took him to the patent office as well. And because these proceedings are so complex and expensive and risky, like you only have a 1 in 6 chance of surviving, he had to walk away from his patent rights and allow DJI to continue to infringe his technology because there's no one in the U.S. protecting him and his patent right. The whole idea of a patent is it's supposed to protect a startup and a small business so that they can compete and we can bring new technologies to the market. And it used to be a very continuous, high-paced process. If you look at what's going on today, we're really trying to hold on to those old technologies from 10 or 20 years ago because that's what the incumbents are making profit on.
Incredible. Well, it completely takes away the incentive to innovate, so it's a serious problem. Josh Malone, U.S. Inventor. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And still to come this evening. In our Veterans Day special, we talked to a veteran business owner about how her experience in the Army helped her lead her business. And then All Veteran Business says it's giving vets the opportunity to serve again in the backyards of America. That and more coming up on NTD Business.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
What does it mean to devote your life to the truth? Does it mean investigating communist subversion here in America? Does it mean exposing the deadly fentanyl crisis in the Midwest? We're spending late nights uncovering deep government corruption? Does it mean persevering over 20 years, even after 4 masked men set one of our printing presses on fire last year? Because at a time when America's traditional values are under attack, it's the responsibility of righteous journalists to uphold truth and tradition.
Welcome back. To celebrate Veterans Day, we're dedicating this part of the show to veterans and also the businesses that support them. We're delighted to be joined by Annette Harris, a veteran herself, and also helps veterans manage their finances before entering the military and exiting. That's as a volunteer with Onward to Opportunity. She's also the founder of Harris Financial Coaching. Annette, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Maybe you can give us an idea of your journey to where we see you now.
Okay, absolutely. So, like you mentioned, I was in the military from 2001 until 2008, and I served in the logistics field. And then I transitioned into human resources in 2008. And over the years in human resources, employees come to me with questions about their benefits, their finances, just advancing in their career. And so in December of 2020, I started thinking, like, how can I help more veterans and, impact their lives? So in January of this year, I decided to start my own company, Harris Financial Coaching, so that I could help them transition out of the military. For me, I had my struggles as well, exiting out of the military. So I figured that I could be a source for veterans of support so that they could transition seamlessly into their new career.
Really nice. What are some of the specific challenges veterans face coming out of the military financially?
A big part of that is understanding the benefits that employers offer. A lot of the benefits that we receive in the military are they're paid. We don't have to pay anything out of pocket. It's one of the benefits of being in the military. And when you get out and you start working with that new employer, there's so many options out there, and it's difficult to decipher like what they mean, what's the best for you and your family. And then also retirement is another big thing as well. The retirement that the military offers, typically, depending on when you join, it's similar to a pension. So understanding what the employers are offering is a big transition when you may have to fund your own retirement. So just explaining the options that are out there for them. And then just the biggest one, I think, is transitioning their resume into civilian speak. So they have served between 5 to 20 years in the military, and a lot of civilian recruiters don't understand the acronyms of the military. So trying to help them put their best foot forward before they transition so that there isn't that gap in the compensation that they're receiving.
Very good, interesting military speak. Annette, for you as an entrepreneur, have the skills you learned in the military, have they helped you to run your business?
Absolutely. So with that, my leadership and my commitment to, providing service to others. So I struggle in my business and, just staying committed and trying to lead people to achieve the goals that they have set for themselves and staying committed to them when they struggle as well has helped me to, continue on the path of being a service to others. My tagline is from service to the nation to service to you. So I just want to be that source of service to others so that they can start accomplishing their goals and just to stay dedicated to the dream that I have and to help others accomplish their dreams as well.
Very good. Annette Harris, thank you for your service and thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
As Annette Harris says, for many it's not easy coming back to civilian life after serving in the military. That's why veteran turned entrepreneur Jerry Flanagan started an all-military and veteran business. NTD's Evelyn Lee has more.
Joe Urich is a U.S. Army veteran. He also owns JDoc Junk Removal and Hauling in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He told me about his struggles after leaving the Army, but then he discovered JDoc and his entrepreneurial side.
When I got out of the military, you kind of have a hole in yourself because you miss being a part of something bigger than yourself and that brotherhood of ethos. Now, being a part of JDog, you get that back because you're automatically thrown into the world of a bunch of like-minded people.
The company was started by Jerry Flanagan. He says he understands how tough it is to go back to civilian life after the military. So he founded JDoc with a mission.
JDog gives veterans an opportunity to serve once again in America's backyards.
The company is a purely veteran and military brand. Its goal is to help lower veteran unemployment and homelessness. He says he did his research and found that junk removal is a high-margin business with strong demand, even when the economy isn't doing well.
When I started, I didn't know much about junk removal. I knew there was a need. I knew it was recession-proof, so I had to do a lot of learning for the first 3 years, Googling everything to how to do this, how to do that.
He says he and his wife started the business with a Jeep and a trailer. Immediately, the community got behind it. Now it's the largest veteran-owned franchise system in the country. They have grown to over 260 franchises nationwide.
Because I immediately fell in love with the mission. I've been out of the military since 2004 and never really had an opportunity to kind of celebrate the fact that I was a vet.
But at times, the job is tough.
There's a term in the military that kind of prepped us for jobs like this. It's called embrace the suck.
Hiring isn't easy either. The company only employs veterans, which just makes up about 3% of the population in the U.S. But Urich says JDoc provides training and a great support system for franchisees. The business model paid off.
There's a new reality TV series on the horizon.
It caught the attention of the producer of the show Dog Whisperer, and now it has its own reality show called Operation Hidden Treasures. Every week, audiences nationwide can follow Joe and the JDoc staff all over the U.S. find hidden treasures to give to veterans in need. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
Wow. It's surprising.
Nice. As the latest business updates for today, you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. That's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, it's all for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.